when there is no more room in hell,
Well, sometimes that is better.
the dead will walk the earth.
All right, guys, let's do this. Cool. Episode 2, Shambling Horror Podcast. Welcome, guys. Today we're going over my favorite survival horror books. We got live chat going on in the Twitch. I will tell you from the jump, I love every single one of these books. I've read every single one of these books. I would not recommend you I do this just in general. I will never recommend you anything that I have not played or read or seen. Period. Like, there's some stuff like outright, like I just don't like. Like, right? Like, it's not for me. Like, I'm not going to go watch, like, Teletubbies go to Special Mountain Spaceland or whatever, right? Like, I'm just not going to watch that. I wouldn't recommend it. I haven't fucking seen it. But anyway, man, yeah, we're going to go through these books. I've read every single one of these books. They're all fantastic. Highly recommend them all. Almost all of them are in a series, too. And I think you can get almost all, if not all of these are on Audible. Audible, YouTube. Some of them are on YouTube, like... I highly recommend you pay for all these, but like some of these are for free on YouTube. Like I think Alien Out of the Shadows is on YouTube. First book. It's real good. It's real good. I will tell you which one of these on this list is my favorite because I do have a favorite. It's not this one. I will tell you though. So The Taking. So The Taking by Dean Koontz was like a pivotal moment for me in like as far as like horror books and like book reading. This book, The Taking, wow, it's a Dean Koontz book. Basically, without spoiling anything, your main character wakes up like in her house and she wakes up like with a fright, like with a jump. Like I've done that where like and I'm sure a lot of you have, where you sit up in bed and you're like, oh goddamn, and you don't know why, you just like wake up with a start. Like you sit up in bed like woof. And it's raining so hard. I'll set the scene for you. So it's raining so hard out, she can't literally can't hear herself think. Like it's like pouring out, and she notices that like all of the animals from the woods are on her porch. And they're like watching her through like the back door. I'm telling you, like that's how it starts. It's wild. I'm not gonna get too much into The Taking. The very end of the book flips the whole book on its head. It's kind of wild, but highly recommend this book. It's absolutely terrifying. There's like really legitimate scares in this book. And it is a survival horror book. I don't really want to get too much into it. It's sort of some demonic alien invasion stuff. Be careful how much you read the plot summary on The Taking. Highly recommend this book, The Taking, Dean Koontz, 2004. But yeah, it's excellent, man. I let people borrow this. So my mom got me this book. The reason I say it's pivotal is because my mom got me this book. I was probably like, 2004? So I was like, I don't know, like 16 or 7, I think it was 16. And my mom gave me this book and said, hey, you should read this, because she read a lot of Dean Koontz. And it like, I was hooked. Like I liked horror stuff, but as far as like novels and stuff, I wasn't really into them. And she got me this, and she got me Swan Song, which is not on my list, but I love that book. And I've been hooked ever since on horror novels and survival horror and stuff. Second book on this list, guys, Extinction Cycle. Extinction Cycle is really, really, really good. And Extinction Cycle, it's called Extinction Cycle Dark Age. It's actually the sequel to Extinction Horizon, which is a book that I really like it a lot. It's later on the list. Yeah, Extinction Cycle's cool. Do not read Extinction Cycle. God, it's hard to say. Extinction Cycle Dark Age until you read Extinction Horizon, the series. It's like the sequel. So basically, Extinction Cycle takes place years after like there's like this crazy ass like apocalyptic like zombie event thing. And the events of the first series, they do some stuff in the first series. I don't want to ruin it, but it sort of leads into some like really unintentionally crazy shit going down in Dark Age. And there's 4 books, I think, in the series now. I've read them all. Like creatures coming up from underground and like snatching people and like hive minds and like all kind of really cool shit. What's actually weird is I don't know if they influenced it or if SCP influenced it. Like, what is it? Special Containment Protocol, like SCP, like the game. They have a bunch of like web series and like lore and like fan fiction that people write. And one of the fan fictions I used to listen to a podcast where they would go through stories was literally the exact like plot for Extinction Cycle. So I don't know, and I like them both, but I don't know if that was like unintentional or whatever. But yeah, Extinction Cycle is really good. It's like it's more on like the military side of things. You have like a special operations team who like blows shit up, and like there's like political intrigue, and like it's a lot more like on the political side of things. Really like this author too. Nicholas Sansbury Smith writes a lot of books that I like a lot. And Anthony Macchiori, I can't pronounce his name. Oh, by the way, the audiobook for this is narrated by R.C. Bray, and R.C. Bray is the best audiobook narrator. That dude narrates like half the books on this list, the audiobooks. It's wild. He's like big time famous audiobook like I guess reader. I don't know what the hell you call that. Voice provider, voice actor. Somebody let me know in the chat, dude. Voice actor, voice provider, dude, man, whatever. The dude that reads shit. I don't know what his name is, or its title is, but if you guys have any like suggestions or you have any like input or anything, definitely feel free to hit up the chat there, guys. Or call and leave me a voicemail, 757-392-9648. It's a live number you guys can call. Leave a voicemail. I'll listen to them on the podcast. And if you happen to call between episodes, I do these on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. More than welcome to leave it, and I'll just get to it like the next episode. We can read it like first thing. Next one. These aren't in any particular order. I just put them in order. Shrouded World, Whistlers. Now, Shrouded World Whistlers is weird because it's this weird offshoot of 2 book series that I love to death. One of them is a zombie series, and one of them is a zombie series, and one of them is this series about like these like vampire creature people. They're like ravenous like pharaoh people, and they can only come out at night. And so what happens is a Shrouded World is this the authors basically took those 2 characters and put them, the main 2 the 2 characters from those 2 books, and use like some reality warping shit and put them both in the same like world. So they both get thrown into this world. The characters from the one zombie series and the characters from one like vampire, like feral person series that I really like. And so there's a whole series of these books, and they get really fucking weird. There's all this fucking weird like angel demon people coming down, and it gets like super weird. The series is really good, but Whistlers is good because it involves these 2 dudes. They have no idea how the hell they got where they are. And the world that they're on is being invaded by the creatures, the zombies and the creatures from the other 2 books. But there's also another enemy in this book, and they're called Whistlers. And I don't really want to ruin it. They're like these like blind cannibal dudes with like high-tech weapons, and they whistle. That's how they communicate. They whistle to each other. I love this book. I cannot recommend it enough. It's a series, like I said, it's a Shrouded World. Number 1 is Whistlers. They go weird places. Like they start like running into like their alternate selves and all kind of weird. Like it's almost like Back to the Future if it was a horror movie or book, I guess. Yeah. Can't recommend it enough, man. Whistler's Shrouded World #1. Highly recommended, guys. But yeah, Mark Tufo and John O'Brien are the two authors. They basically got together and wrote one book. Sean Renette is does the audiobook version, and he's also very good. But yeah, all of these books by Mark Tufo, these Shrouded World books, I love these books. Next is probably my favorite out of this whole list. The next one is probably my favorite out of this whole list, guys. If I was to recommend you any book on this entire list, and this list isn't like exclusive, there's stuff that I'm sure I left off here. If there's anything you want to recommend I add on this list, you're more than welcome to tell me in chat or DM me, Twitter, Discord, wherever, YouTube. But Arisen. So Arisen is awesome. Arisen is like 14 books. It like spans the globe. It's so cool. So there's this like your typical like outbreak of like nonsense or whatever, right? But what happens is it like morphs like the infected into like these like crazy strong like creature people, and they're like cannibal. They eat people, uninfected people or whatever. But what's cool about this series, Arisen, is there's like this super elite like team of like spec ops dudes who are like involved in what's going on, and they're traveling all over the world. Like at one point they go to like Russia, and like what if I remember right, they go to Russia and like snatch a dude out of like destroyed Moscow out of like a bunker, and like but this series though in particular, one of these books, I think it was like the 6th book. I think it was 6. Yeah, I think it was number 6. It was either 5 or 6. There is I'm pretty sure it was number 5. There is one of possibly like the coolest settings ever. It's not really a spoiler, but like these people are on like a ship, like a big like warship, and the ship crashes on the beach, and like there's like a horde, like millions of zombies, like in a group. They're all grouped up, like wandering around, and they wander to where the ship is. And so they like start assaulting the ship, trying to get on it. And it is epic, dude. Like it is so fucking epic. And like at the same time, you have like Russian like Spetsnaz and like KGB are like trying to like kill what's left of the US like military contingent and shit. And it's so good. I cannot recommend. Arisen is so fucking good. And what's funny is I'm pretty sure it's also narrated by I'm pretty sure that this Kindle, or not the Kindle version, because I had the Kindle version. I actually read this. Some of them I got on audiobook, but the Audible version I'm 100% sure is narrated by the same guy who did Nick or R.C. Bray, who did Extinction Shadow. I'm pretty sure it's the exact same guy. R.C. Bray does this one too. Arisen, guys. Glenn James and Michael Stephen Fuchs. Highly recommend it. It's like 14 books. It's a long series. It's so good, and I'm telling you, like, it just keeps hitting its stride. It like keeps hitting its stride. It keeps hitting its stride. It's so good. The next one on my list is probably like the most popular one on the list. Well, there's 2 or 3 other ones on here that are really popular, but one in particular, The Strain. So the reason I say it's so popular is because The Strain was a book series that they actually made into a show, like a really popular show. It was on, I want to think it was on FX. Now things in the show differ quite a bit from like the book. The book is obviously better. The books are almost always better. There's very, very few examples of when they aren't. But yeah, The Strain is very, very good. So what's funny is actually written by is it Chuck Hogan and Guillermo del Toro. So what's interesting about that is, if you guys have ever seen Blade 2 with I can't remember what the Reaper vampires, the ones whose faces open up, those are literally the vampires that they use in this. They're like the exact same. And Guillermo del Toro directed that Blade movie, Blade 2. So like there, it's cool. I like both these things. But The Strain is really, really, really cool. A lot of people don't make that connection. That Guillermo del Toro did that Blade 2 movie and then basically took that idea. I don't know which came first, if he was writing the book first or if that movie came first, right? I don't know how long he was writing that book for, but yeah, The Strain, those vampires, like that idea, like directly came from that Blade movie, or one influenced the other, right? But yeah, The Strain, it's really good. The show is really good too. It goes a little off the rails towards the end there, but so do the books. But the interesting thing about The Strain is they like take it some religious places that you don't expect it to go. I don't really want to spoil it. You have your typical like vampires can't cross water without like help and like shit like that, right? And like your bloodthirsty stuff and like shit like that, but they and you're like mind control. You have like a master vampire guy, and you have like old vampire society, and like stuff like that, which is great. But there's also some like religious shit that they don't cover very much, like almost like what the hell, like Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula. You remember they tied in all that religious shit that was like really interesting? There's like some stuff like that in The Strain, but it's like way weirder. It's like, I don't want to spoil it. It's like some Sodom and Gomorrah like sin and punishment shit. It's like really weird. So we're on Autumn. So this book is really cool. So Autumn is really, really cool. The thing about this book that's weird is I was randomly like, so I was in the Navy and I used to have to sit, my work when I was deployed was to literally sit on this electronic console and just sit there like this and like watch the console. And if something emergency happened, I would go, beep, beep, there's an emergency, right? Like that was my job. And almost I'd sit there for 12 hours and just go like this. So we had this little computer, but we couldn't like do anything like really interactive on that computer, right? Like we couldn't really play. I mean, we played like fucking solitaire, right? But I couldn't like play Duke Nukem. What I ended up doing was I started downloading, this was like 2008. What I would do is I would download, like books on the internet, just random, like I would just search like horror books, boop, and I would like download them all, like the text version, and then I would either read them on the computer, I would just scroll and read, or I would print them out. And so like it was just paper and I was just reading it, so no one came over and fucked with me. So like I'd sit there and I'd flip it and I'd read and I'd watch the thing, right? And that's what I used to do. So this book, Autumn, was one of those books. I randomly came across this and like downloaded it, got like a downloaded copy. And what's funny is this author, not only do I love this series is also really scary. It builds tension really well. This guy actually wrote the next book on the series too, or on this list. If you guys like zombie shit, this is really neat. So what happens is everybody drops dead, right? Everybody drops dead. Everybody just whoosh, everybody falls out. And there's like one dude who is like alive, and he's like walking around. He's like, what the fuck? And so like he has like a cabin in the woods, and he like is just living and like trying to deal with all the shit. Like everyone just dropped out, right? Like, so he keeps traveling back and forth from his cabin to town, and he goes into town one day, and the bodies start getting up. Like all of the dead bodies, like people, like, but they're like zombie, like they just start getting up and like walking around but they're not like interacting with him and they're not like attacking him, but they're like just undead, like zombies, but they're just walking around, like bumping into things. And so he's like, what the fuck? And I'm not ruining the book, but he's like, what the fuck is going on? And like slowly but surely, like they start to notice him. And like, and it gets really crazy. But Autumn builds tension really well because it comes in stages, right? Like these things start to sort of wake up and then they start to become a little more aware, right? And like, and it starts getting riskier for him, like to go into town and whatnot. Highly recommend it. Autumn, super, super, super good book. It's by David Moody. David Moody's written a bunch of really good books. Autumn's a series. I think there's 5 books in a series. I've actually, you know what's funny is I've actually only read the first 4. I have not read the last one. I should probably, when did that come out? Oh, it's 2012. Holy shit. Yeah, I have read the first 4. I've not read the last one. I should probably do that. As I sit here and recommend it to you. I'm thinking of getting it. Yeah, you should definitely get it. It's the shit. Audible is the shit, bro. Although a lot of these books you can find on YouTube. If you just type them in YouTube, you can find them. But next one. Patient Zero. Or no, Hater. Hater's on this list. So Hater is actually written by David Moody. Hater's interesting. And it's funny is Guillermo del Toro, who we talked about earlier, recommends this book. Hater is weird. It's probably like the strangest book on this list, and this list is weird. So Hater's this book where, how can I explain this? Like, there's like an evolutionary switch like that goes off in people. Like you just be like asleep and you go to sleep one day and you'll wake up the next day and there's some kind of evolutionary just like snap, like a blip, like that goes off in people's bodies. And for whatever reason, the people who don't have that like weird evolutionary like boop, they can tell who hasn't had that happen to them, and their bodies make them like, it's like a physiological reaction. Like the people who haven't had that happen to them yet are dangerous to them. And they like become murderous towards like the people who haven't had that like genetic switch go off. It's like very weird because like you end up in this situation where like half the world hasn't had that genetic switch for whatever reason and they're normal, and the other half has had that switch go off and they're like normal, but they consider the other side like their enemies, so you end up at war. It's like fucking weird. And the strangest thing is like, yeah, it's like really neat. And the strangest thing is the kids are affected differently too. So the kids are affected differently. They become like feral. And they're like really like murderous little fucks. Hater's really good because it gets like it's like a us versus them thing. Like it's survival horror, but like both sides have like consciousness and like sadness and like misery and like love and like all of this like, right? Like it's and it's sad because like your main character, it's not a spoiler, but your main character essentially like is in a situation where he becomes like murderous towards his family because he thinks they're dangerous to him, even though like they're not. Oh, but at some point they are, right? Like, because the side that the lines are drawn. But yeah, Hater, really highly recommend it. It's recommended by Guillermo del Toro. What else do you need? Guillermo del Toro and me, we both recommend it. Yeah. So Hater, highly recommend it. Next book on the list is actually weird because it's so I was never really into like spy books and like special operator groups that like would like fucking go kill bad guys, and I'm into those now, but at the time I wasn't when this book came out. And this is really neat. So this book is called Patient Zero. It's Joe Ledger. It's the Joe Ledger series. This is another one. This author actually I highly recommend too, Jonathan Mayberry. Excuse me. He's a really, really good horror author. He's written a ton of shit that I really like. But Patient Zero is neat because it's a mixture of both of those. So what happens is you have this hard ass like Baltimore veteran like cop, and they said, "Hey, we want you to interrogate this guy," and the guy they're trying to have him interrogate is a fucking zombie, and they know that. They're trying to see how he reacts because they want him to work for like this shadow organization of like these special operator dudes. Yeah. And so like they put this like a hard ass, it's right in the beginning of the book. They put this hard ass Baltimore cop in the room with this dude who literally like shreds his fucking hands to like get out of the cuffs. He's a fucking zombie. And he starts like fist fighting this zombie and beating his ass. And I want to say he like twists the zombie's head off and like, oh shit. And like throws it across the room. And he's like, what the fuck? But what's cool about this series, and then like he has to figure out like who are the terrorists that like made the zombies and like, yeah, but there's like, I think, I can't remember how many books are in this series. Like, I want to say there's like 14. There might actually be more than that. Let me see. So in the Joe Ledger series, there are 29 books. There are 29 books in the Joe Ledger, or is there really? Wait, no way. Yeah, there are 29 books in the series. That's wild. I've read almost all of them. Highly recommend this series. Patient Zero, Joe Ledger. The rest of them aren't zombies. Some of them are like Nazi surviving Nazis that make like genetic super soldiers and like fucking robots and shit. It's like really neat. This series is based around this like special operator team. I think there's like two. There's like 2 books in the whole series out of like 20 books that have zombies in them, but the rest of them don't. Really, really highly recommend it. Next books. Oh, you guys know I got like sort of have the shirt on too. I mean, it's Ice Nine Kills. It's not Resident Evil, but it is. It's supposed to be like it's rainy day. Get it? Umbrella. So Resident Evil. Umbrella Conspiracy. Bruh. I cannot recommend, if you guys like Resident Evil, I cannot recommend these books enough. I recommend them all the time. There's actually a shit ton of people that have never read these books. There's, I think like 6. Remember how many books are in this series? There's like a shit ton of books in this series. Or 7. I think it's 7 books. That's just in this series, and then there's all kind of like fan fiction and shit. But highly recommend it, man. The first book, I want to say... The first book I think was the first game, and then I think the second book I want to say was like Code Veronica, or it was Caliban Cove, but I can't remember. Well, they have a Code Veronica book, but I want to say it was Caliban Cove. It skips around a little bit. Yeah, it's right here. It's Caliban Cove. But no, it wasn't Code Veronica. It was Rebecca Chambers. But I don't know. Caliban Cove. Code Veronica, it's not the same, but whatever, it's fine. Recommend this. It sort of fills in. So, Superfly or anybody else in chat, welcome guys, by the way. If you're just joining us, welcome to Shambling Horror Podcast episode 2. We do these on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talk about survival horror shit. More than welcome to join us in the live chat or just lurk. Appreciate you guys. And there's also a live call-in number right there if you guys want to call in. This will also be up on my YouTube channel tomorrow. I will put it up on my YouTube channel tomorrow. Go check that out, by the way. I do a lot of gaming playthroughs on there. I'm getting ready to start Death's Door. We're going to actually play that when I'm done recording this tonight. We're going to play some Death's Door on the stream. I fucking love that game. I started it last night for like 20 minutes and I could not put it down. I had to put it down so I could make content out of it because you know how it is. But Resident Evil Umbrella Conspiracy, really, really good. It ties in like in between like story stuff for the games and stuff. Doesn't have anything to do with the movies necessarily. It's just it covers like stuff you wouldn't necessarily get in the games because they just don't have time, right? I mean, you got a game takes you like, you know, you have to go from like point A to point B, right? Like you have to progress that. A story you can sort of stretch it out. The books are really good. The Umbrella Conspiracy is the first one. There's like I think 6-7 books in the series. The first like 3 or 4 really good. The other ones are fine. Highly recommended though. Next one on the list is actually funny because it's in the same universe as Patient Zero. It's the same author. It's Jonathan Mayberry. I told you some of these guys like I follow their work. It's called Dead of Night. It's by the same author. It's a straight up zombie book. Except the weird twist. This is a lot like The Strain. So there's 3 books on this list that are very similar. The Strain, Dead of Night, and The Passage are all very, very, very similar. In that they sort of use like The Passage and Dead of Night specifically, but they use people who are like shitheads as their like driving force for the book. As far as like in The Strain, they use, what was it, Gus? Was it Gus? Was that his name, I think? The boxer dude, the gangster dude. And they use that, what's his face? The singer guy. What the fuck was his name? I can't remember. The metal singer dude, who was like a real shithead, as sort of to push the story along. And Dead of Night was the same way. So what they do is they use death row inmates and inject them with some bullshit. And then they become like carriers of this zombie virus, but they're like aware. Like it affects them differently. And they escape. And like they have like a hunger and they want to kill everyone because they're fucking serial killers. Like they're crazy. But everyone they're interacting with, they're infecting. And so like they cause like a whole bunch of havoc. We're going to go on the next book on this list. It's called Death Troopers. So Death Troopers is awesome. Death Troopers is a zombie Star Wars book. I am actually shocked. I am shocked at the amount of people who don't know about this book. And I think it's because like Disney shits on the expanded universe stuff. Like they kind of just throw it out. But this fucking book and this audiobook specifically are fucking incredible. So to set the scene for you for this book, it's well, you know what's funny is it's in between. It takes place about a year before A New Hope, so it's actually a prequel to the original series. So, well, it's not. It's a prequel to the 3rd movie. So, what's crazy about this is, to set the scene for you guys, it takes place on an Imperial ship where they're doing like biological weapons testing, right? And there's like a disaster on the ship. I don't remember. It's been a while, but I don't remember why it happened. But basically, they have a zombie outbreak on a fucking Imperial like Star Wars cruiser. It is awesome. It is so fucking cool. It's like Dead Space in a Star Wars ship. Like, bruh. And it's cool is in the audiobook, they have like, they put in like the screaming of the zombies and they cackle and like make this like crazy creepy noise. And so like the main character will be like running down the hall and they'll play like the audio, like to be in chase. It's like, oh, it just gives me the chills just thinking about it, man. I really highly recommend this book. It's probably one of my favorite on this whole list. I don't recommend the prequel. It wasn't very good. It was called Red Harvest. It was like how the Sith are like trying to use that weapon or whatever. It wasn't very good. Believe it or not, it was pretty bad, the prequel. But yeah, I highly, highly recommend Death Troopers. Star Wars Death Troopers. It's a fucking zombie Star Wars book. A straight up zombie Star Wars book. It's so good, man. Oh, it was an Imperial prison barge. That's what it was. And they basically turn them all into zombies. It is nutty. I don't think there's any like, you're not going to get like, no, there is some other stuff. I don't want to ruin it. But next book on this list is The Morning Star Strain. I was talking about this earlier. This is actually a really sad book series. Because the guy that wrote these wrote like the first 3 and then he died very suddenly. And he was young. He had like a medical emergency, like a heart attack, and he died. And while that's very tragic, what happened is these books were very good and they had a big fan base. And the fourth and the fifth book, and then I want to say there was a sixth one too that I've read. I want to say there was a sixth one too that I've read. Other authors basically took up the mantle and continued the story and gave all the proceeds to his family. It's a fucking wonderful outcome to a really shitty situation. This is a really beloved zombie series, and it was really sad that the guy that was writing this series died. Like I said, I have this book. It's right here. It's like one of the first zombie books I ever bought. You can tell it's all beat up, like physical. This came out in like 2006. It was Permuted Press. Permuted Press, I'm not even sure is around anymore. They used to do like apocalyptic books. It was a company that all they did was publish apocalyptic books. I bought that at, not Barnes & Noble. It was, it's a bookstore went out of business. So Books A Million, I think, or some shit. The store's not even open anymore. But The Morningstar Strain, really cool book. It's kind of straightforward as far as zombies go. The thing that I like about Plague of the Dead was it was one of the first books I ever read. So Plague of the Dead was one of the first books I ever read that introduced the idea of like you had your infected zombie that was like running like 28 Days Later zombie, right? But then once you killed them, they reanimated as like a shambling zombie. So it's interesting. You have this weird problem where like you have like shambling zombies, but you also have like running zombies, but you also have to deal with them twice. Yeah, it's like, it's interesting. This is a really cool ass book. The rest of it's pretty standard as far as like, you have your like rogue, like asshole military group and like they want to like have control and you know what I mean? Like, but it's very, very, very good. These books are really good. There's like, I think there's 6 books. He wrote the first 3, Z.A. Reich, and then he passed away. And then I think the next 2 were written by other people. And I want to say there's a 6th book, but I didn't see it on here. Crimson Heads. Yes, exactly like Crimson Heads, dude. That monster was like Grendel meets Sasquatch meets a zombie meets Hellhound. Yeah, it was really bad. Except it's the other way. Yes, correct. You kill them and yes, you kill them and then they cease because they're people at that point. They're not dead. They're infected, but they're not dead. And then you kill them and then they basically, like they stand up and start, right? They start like wandering around. But yeah, highly recommend it. Plague of the Dead. There's like I said, I think I want to say there's 6 books in that series. I've read the 5 they have listed. I want to say this is the 6th one. But yeah, they're really, really good. And buying this book actually goes towards his family, so that's cool because he passed away. But next on this list is probably my favorite. Well, Arisen is my favorite book on this list, but the Monster Island is probably like the coolest book. It's by David Wellington. This is like one of the most innovative zombie books I've ever. It's a series. There's 3 of them. It was so it was Zombie. Was it Zombie Island, Zombie Nation, Zombie World, or Planet? So Monster Nation, Monster Planet, Monster Island. Zombie Island is cool because this is not really a spoiler, but the book is based on the idea that this guy is in New York and there's a zombie outbreak and he knows he's fucked. He knows he will not get out of New York. So you know what he does? This smart motherfucker gets a vial of infected blood and goes to the hospital and hooks himself up on a dialysis machine and a respirator. And then infects himself and by injecting himself with the infected blood. Because what happens is he dies, he gets sick and passes away and dies, but his body and his brain don't degenerate because he was on oxygen and a dialysis machine. Bruh. So he wakes up as a zombie, but he's conscious. And so he's walking. Yes, dude. And they leave him alone. So he's like a normal dude. He's a zombie. He's undead, but he's like a normal dude. He's like walking around and like zombies are everywhere. It's like the best idea ever. I'm telling you. And like, And what happens is it gets into this weird meta where like the zombies like feed off the like they can literally see the living energy of people, and like that's why they want to feed. And I don't really want to get into that too much in case y'all want to read this, because it'll spoil it. The ending is fucking crazy to this book series, but no, like I'm telling you, this book is so good. These books are really good, and it gets really crazy. You start getting like mummies and like weird shit. I don't really want to get to it. Gets supernatural and like weird. This is probably the coolest book on the list. It's a series. There's 3 of them. Monster Island. Like coolest book on the list is in like, this is probably the coolest idea. Other than maybe Extinction Cycle Dark Age. Extinction Cycle Dark Age is like this weird, like they have all these like underground creatures that like live in like tentacles and shit, and like fucking hive mind brain creatures and all kind of neat shit. Extinction Cycle is really neat, and the taking is also really cool, but Monster Island, as far as the take on zombies, I have never read a zombie book that was more creative than Monster Island. It's really fucking neat, dude. The next book on this list is actually also, I think, one of the only one is the only one on this list other than The Strain and technically Resident Evil, the books, that was ever made into a movie or a show. Highly recommend this one also. It's called The Passage. So, The Passage is another vampire series, and it was actually on Fox. Crazy enough, it had the guy that played Zach from Saved by the Bell in it, and he's actually really good. Mark Paul Gosselaar, the guy that plays Zach in Saved by the Bell, is in the show, and it's really good, man. It's that idea that they're gonna try and like cure disease, and they basically find like this like vampire like blood thing, and they take all these people that are like convicts, and they lock them up in this facility, and they infect them with this shit to test it. And like what's cool about it is they're all like in these glass like fronted like prison cells, and they're all like in this round room. And so like the one doctor guy is like, I think, friends with one of the guys who gets infected, and they lock him up down there. And so like he goes down there as they're running these tests, and they like interact with each other, but like they keep becoming like weirder and weirder, these people they're doing the testing on, and they end up like hanging from the ceiling and shit, and like it's really fucking creepy. But The Passage is basically, it goes between like, I think it's 1,000 years in the future, and basically the earth is toasted. Like these vampires got out, and they're like vampire kings basically, and the earth is fucked, and the remaining people live behind these big ass walls with lights on them. And what happens is you find out that there's somebody who is like not like, she's infected, but she's essentially like the Daywalker. She's like the Blade of like the series. Like she is unaffected by it. And what they do is they decide to start venturing out with her to kill these vampire king dudes, and they're all like different. They call them the 12. And they all have like different psychic abilities and shit, and they're all totally fucking crazy, most of them, because they were like criminals. And they're all different, and they're all weird. But The Passage was a TV show also. It's a very big book too. It's like 1,000 pages, I think. The book. I have it. It's over there. But yeah, The Passage, highly recommend it. Very big ass book, all 3 of them. I think there's 3. Wasn't it the 12? Yeah, the 12 in City of Mirrors. Highly recommend it, man. These books are creepy as fuck, dude. These vampires are not fucking around, dude. It's also really cool because part of this takes place in Denver, and I lived in Denver. So, like, it's really neat. Like, this book takes place in somewhere I lived. So, like, I know what they're talking about. It's like, it's creepy. At one point, they have to escape a high-rise full of vampires and shit, and, like, through the parking garage. It's, like, real creepy. But yeah, highly recommend this book, man. The Passage. Justin Cronin. Next book on this list is Mountain Man. So, Mountain Man is probably like one of the most lighthearted books on this list. It's basically about this fucking big, goofy, like bearded dude who's kind of older, who likes to drink a lot, so survives like this zombie apocalypse and just finds this like mansion with like solar panels up in the mountains and just moves into it. And like drinks and just carries on and like has like DVDs and like eats pizzas. And, I mean, and obviously like just shit gets weirder and weirder. At one point he gets like fucking literally blown off the side of the mountain and lives. But like, and it goes a lot of really weird places, but it's way more lighthearted pretty much than anything else on this list. On this list of books. Yeah, Mountain Man. I recommend it. It's your typical zombie fare. It's like I said, it's probably the most lighthearted on this list that I put on here. There's also a bunch of books not on this list. Like I was just talking about, like the Apocalypse of the Dead, and there's like a whole bunch of books I have on a shelf back there that I never even put on this list. If I put every survival horror book I liked on this list, it would literally be too long for me to read. But 2 more. So, Extinction Horizon is awesome. It's a lot like Arisen. It's basically like, and it's funny because I think it's the same author. Well, no. Fuchs wrote Extinction Cycle, or wrote Arisen. So it's very similar. It's very similar to Extinction Horizon. In the sense that you have like your special operations like team that like tries to kill like zombie creatures and shit. Highly recommend this book. Highly recommend it. It's like I said, it's like your typical zombie fanfare, except it's got it's got like some more like military stuff, like spec ops, like fucking explosions and guns and like Michael Bay shit. Highly recommend it. It was really good. I actually like the sequel. Sean, you shut the fuck up. I'm kidding, bro. I love you. I actually like the sequel, Extinction Cycle, way more. It's like weird. There's like tentacle creatures and all kind of shit. And no, the tentacle creatures don't fuck anyone. I don't know fucking goddamn dirty bitches in my chat, dude. Always. The last book on this list is Alien Out of the Shadows. So it's Alien. It's Alien, like the movie. And what's cool, it's a trilogy, I think. Highly recommend it. It's a book in the Alien universe, and it ties in the story between basically like the first movie and the third movie with Ripley, or the first movie and the end of the second movie with Ripley. Did it actually go into like, you find out like what happened to Newt's parents from the second movie? Like they have that whole thing like how they died, and like it was like crazy as fuck, and the aliens like took over the station and shit. Highly recommend Alien Out of the Shadows. It's a book, I think. Well, there's technically a bunch of them, but I think there was 3 books in that series, right? 3, not 4. 3. Last thing we'll do on the podcast before I wrap this up is I want to give honorable mention to We're Alive. So if you guys like, well, if you're listening to this, you like podcasts, right? Like if you're listening to this on Spotify or on YouTube or whatever, you obviously like audio. So it's cool. I don't know anybody else who have done this. So We're Alive was a weekly zombie apocalypse radio show. It's done now, and they've done, I think, 2 sequels. But it was fully professionally produced with voice actors, different voice actors for different characters, and like sound, like footsteps, like your old school like radio show where they would do like the noises. Like they actually do all the noises, like somebody running down the hallway, or like gunshots, or like things blowing up. Like they do all those noises. But this is an honorable mention on this list because it's not technically a book. It's like a weekly like show. It's fully produced. It's called We're Alive. It's fucking awesome. You can find it, I think, pretty much everywhere. Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever. I think it's even on YouTube. Highly recommend this. What's crazy is the sequel, I think, had who was the guy who played Morpheus in The Matrix? I want to say he was in the sequel. He was one of the voice actors. Highly recommend this. We're Alive. If you like survival horror shit, it's probably one of my coolest, like one of my favorite things ever. There's like a couple hundred episodes. Highly recommend it. We're Alive's really good. I kind of wanted to give that an honorable mention because it's yes, Lawrence Fishburne. Yes. I think he's in the sequel, but yeah, We're Alive is really good. It's like, zombies, and then there's like different versions, and it gets really weird. but it's a weekly like serial, like it's like almost like an old school radio show. It's fucking wonderful. It's wonderful. But I think that'll do it for us tonight. Also, don't forget, if you guys want to leave me a voicemail for next week's podcast, it'll be numbers right there on the screen. It's 757-392-9648. You can leave me voicemails. Feedback on the show, maybe something you want me to do, or like if you want me to add to my list, maybe something I haven't read, or whatever. Leave me voicemail. I'll read them on the stream. We do these on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will wrap this up. Thank you for everybody coming through and chat. Zaddy, dude, thanks for dropping by. Shad, Moonshadow, everybody who came in. It was nice to meet you, by the way, Ninja. Who else do we have come through here tonight? Not any lurkers, just people that came in. I don't think I missed anybody. Kinda Sir. Holy fuck, I must miss Kinda Sir. Have a good night, guys.